Hi, this is Joseph Backholm with the Family Policy Institute with this April Fool's edition of your weekly review. This week in the legislature, they went home. They ended the special session. It's true, everyone is gone from Olympia. There's a couple people hanging around as the governor signs some bills, but the supplemental budget has been finished and everyone has gone home. One of the highlights of all of that is just before the legislature passed their final budget, the House and the Senate overrode 27 vetoes that Governor Inslee had previously issued. You might recall at the end of the regular session, Governor Inslee was frustrated that the legislature had not gotten their job done in time and passed a budget. So what he did was somewhat arbitrarily vetoed 27 bills that the legislature had passed. And the legislature clearly did not appreciate that gesture or the lecture that it represented. So what they did was they went back, grabbed those 27 bills, and passed them again by a supermajority, effectively overriding the governor's veto and telling the governor, thank you, but no thank you. Another highlight of the final supplemental budget is the fact that the legislature did not fund the fine issued by the Supreme Court in the McCleary decision. You might remember that the Supreme Court had said, hey, legislature, we're going to fine you because you aren't doing your job by properly funding public education like we in the Supreme Court think is appropriate. Now, of course, it's the legislature's job, not the Supreme Court's job, to write the state budget and decide where the money goes. So the legislature, when they passed their final budget, essentially told the Supreme Court, like they did with the governor in other ways, we don't really care what you think because you aren't the ones who do the lawmaking and the spending for the state of Washington. So there, in the budget, was some interesting kind of messages being sent, but ultimately it was passed. A supplemental budget has been completed, and Washington State will continue to move forward. And the legislators, of course, now are going to go home and mostly begin campaigning because the majority of the 50% of the Senate and all of the House of Representatives will be up for election this fall. So you can expect to see a state legislator on a doorstep near you very soon. In addition, other news around the state and around the country that's affecting us. The state of North Carolina has been dealing with the bathroom issue in much the same way we in Washington State have been. The city of Charlotte passed an ordinance that would have allowed men into the women's locker room and bathrooms. So the North Carolina State Assembly got together in a one-day special session and passed a bill that overrode that local ordinance and essentially said, we're going to have a universal policy on this and we're not going to force businesses to allow men into the women's locker room. That has created quite an uproar around the country, and we will expect that to become part of the conversation here in Washington State as well. Governor Cuomo, as well as from New York, as well as Governor Inslee from our own state of Washington, have banned travel to the state of North Carolina because of their opposition to this piece of legislation. What's interesting is that Governor Inslee in Washington State banned unessential travel to the state of North Carolina, which we think begs the question, well, if it's not essential, why were you doing it in the first place? So we actually applaud Governor Inslee's decision to ban unessential travel to the state of North Carolina and encourage him to ban unessential travel everywhere, regardless of their bathroom policies. That's all we have for this week. This is Joseph Backholm with the Family Policy Institute of Washington.